Hi everyone, welcome back to Eco Certifications Hospitality, the Hospitality Professionals channel. Today we are going to look at the latest 2026 sustainability research published by Booking.com. Every year, Booking.com publishes one of the largest global studies on traveler attitudes towards sustainability and tourism. And this year's edition is particularly interesting because it highlights some contradictions and changing traveler behaviors that hospitality professionals should probably pay attention to. The study is based on responses from more than 32,000 travelers across 35 countries. And compared with previous years, one thing becomes very clear. Travelers still care about sustainability, but their behavior is becoming more complex. So let's look at the key findings. One of the biggest takeaways from the 2026 report is what Booking.com describes as a generational paradox. According to the study, 85% of travelers globally say that sustainable travel remains important or very important to them. However, when Booking.com looked at actual behaviors, the results became much more nuanced. Younger generations, especially Gen Z and millennials, express the strongest sustainability intentions. For example, 75% of Gen Z travelers say they want to travel more sustainably in the next 12 months compared with only 47% of boomers. But surprisingly, older travelers are actually more likely to take concrete sustainable actions during trips. 67% of boomers say they actively reduce waste while traveling, compared with only 48% of Gen Z travelers. The same pattern appears with energy consumption. 60% of boomers say they reduce energy usage in accommodations, compared with 42% of Gen Z travelers. And when it comes to shopping locally, 59% of boomers say they prioritize local independent stores versus 42% of Gen Z travelers. So, one of the major conclusions of the study is that younger travelers often express stronger environmental values, but older travelers currently demonstrate more consistent sustainable behaviors in practice. At the same time, the study also shows that younger generations lead in other areas. 31% of Gen Z travelers participated in activities linked to local indigenous cultures, and 24% participated in experiences contributing to ecosystem or wildlife conservation. So, sustainability expectations are clearly evolving differently depending on age groups. Another major topic in the 2026 study is the growing impact of extreme weather on tourism decisions. According to Booking.com, 74% of travelers now consider extreme weather risks when choosing destinations, and the exact same percentage also considers climate risks when deciding when to travel. This is becoming a very significant factor in tourism behavior. The report also shows that 68% of travelers actively avoid destinations known for extreme weather, while 55% say climate uncertainty makes travel planning stressful. And perhaps the most striking figure, 31% of travelers globally said they had already canceled or modified travel plans because of extreme weather events or natural disasters. The study also highlights behavioral changes linked to overtourism and seasonality. Compared with previous years, 43% of travelers now say they plan to avoid overcrowded destinations, which is an increase of 11% year over year. Additionally, 42% plan to travel outside peak season, and 25% actively seek cooler destinations. So, sustainability is no longer only about recycling or energy saving behaviors. Climate adaptation and destination choices are now becoming part of sustainable travel behavior itself. One particularly interesting section of the report looks at the practical actions travelers say they plan to take in 2026 to travel more sustainably. The most common action is reducing general waste while traveling. According to the study, 52% of travelers say they intend to reduce waste during their trips, whether by recycling, avoiding single use items, or making more conscious consumption choices. 50% say they plan to avoid activities that could negatively impact local wildlife. 47% intend to reduce energy consumption during their stay. For example, by turning off lights or air conditioning when leaving their room. 46% plan to use more sustainable transportation options, such as public transport, trains, cycling, electric taxis, or electric rental vehicles. The study also highlights a growing interest in supporting local economies. 45% of travelers say they plan to shop more frequently at local independent stores while traveling. And as we saw earlier, destination choice itself is increasingly viewed as a sustainability action. 43% intend to avoid overcrowded destinations, while 42% plan to travel outside peak season. Other planned actions include avoiding tours that may exploit local populations, reducing water consumption during hotel stays, and actively choosing accommodations that hold sustainability certifications. The report also investigates the barriers that prevent travelers from making more sustainable choices. And interestingly, cost is not the number one obstacle. The biggest barrier identified by respondents is complexity. 42% of travelers say that finding more sustainable travel options requires too much time and effort. The second biggest barrier is cost, with 38% saying sustainable options are simply too expensive for them. Trust is another major issue. 37% of travelers say they do not always trust sustainability claims made by travel providers. The same percentage, 37%, feel there are not enough sustainable options available for their trips. And finally, 36% say they simply do not know where to find sustainable travel options. Taken together, these findings suggest that accessibility, transparency, and simplicity remain major challenges for the travel industry. Booking.com asked travelers what would encourage them to make more sustainable choices. The answers were surprisingly practical. 47% mentioned discounts or financial incentives. 45% would like advice on how to travel more sustainably without increasing their budget. 41% want clearer communication about what makes an option more sustainable. 40% would appreciate guidance on when to travel to avoid overcrowding. And 38% said loyalty programs rewarding sustainable choices would encourage them to act. Overall, travelers seem to be asking for sustainability to become easier, clearer, and more accessible. One thing worth mentioning is that the 2025 and 2026 studies did not focus on exactly the same topics. The 2025 report was largely centered on tourism's impact on local communities, over tourism, and how travelers perceive their responsibility toward destinations. The 2026 report, on the other hand, focuses much more on traveler behavior, climate adaptation, and what Booking.com calls the generational paradox between sustainability, intentions, and real actions. Because of these different focuses, direct comparisons are somewhat limited. That said, a few common trends emerge. First, the importance of sustainable travel remains remarkably stable. Around 84% of travelers considered sustainable travel important in 2025, compared with 85% in 2026. Second, concern about tourism's impact on destinations continues to grow. In 2026, 43% of travelers say they plan to avoid overcrowded destinations, an increase of 11 percentage points compared with the previous year. And finally, traveler awareness of local communities remains strong. In both studies, around 69% of travelers said they wanted to leave destinations in a better condition than when they arrived. So rather than showing a major shift in attitudes, the 2026 report seems to show how some of the concerns identified in 2025 are gradually translating into actual travel decisions. Overall, the 2026 Booking.com report confirms that sustainability remains an important topic for travelers worldwide. However, the study also highlights a growing maturity in how people approach the subject. Rather than focusing exclusively on environmental actions, travelers increasingly connect sustainability with broader topics such as over tourism, climate adaptation, destination choice, seasonality, and support for local communities. Another interesting finding is the gap between intentions and actions, particularly across generations. While younger travelers often express stronger sustainability ambitions, older generations tend to report more concrete sustainable behaviors. Finally, the report suggests that travelers are not necessarily looking for more sustainability messages. They are looking for solutions that are simple, transparent, practical, and easy to integrate into their travel decisions. Taken together, these findings provide an interesting snapshot of how sustainable travel continues to evolve in 2026. It will be interesting to see whether these trends continue in the coming years, particularly as climate concerns and over tourism become increasingly important topics for destinations around the world. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoy this kind of hospitality sustainability content, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with hospitality professionals around you. If you would like to improve your sustainability impact, we have solutions to help you. You are welcome to visit the Eco Certifications Hospitality website for more hospitality sustainability resources and practical tools, or to reach us by email to speak directly with us. See you soon!